You know, I was just thinking if I were to take another, like, make this into a control essentially, like I did previously, I could minimize its size, make it smaller to fit everything together, and I could present four of them, which would be one essentially running in this mode, one running in this mode for training purposes, and then I could have essentially one testing off the data for that particular mode and the other testing off that one. And I could sit there and I could run them essentially so you could visualize which ones were picking up quicker. Now, a big thing would be is how quickly does it reach the right result? You know what I mean? Because right now when I'm running a test, essentially, it's testing to see whether or not it hits the right result. But it's not collecting any statistics on performance, which is something else. Now I happen to know for a fact because I've actually sat here and run this until it fucking started working like it should. I'm pretty sure using this method of training, so on and so forth, the right shit gets reached, even though it really shouldn't matter when you think about it. You know what I mean? It really shouldn't matter when you think about it, because this mode is just taking it directly to where it should go, right? Okay, now that's the thing, but it's still training the same. You follow? No matter where the hell, it's still generating the right data and applying it to the model, okay? Whereas this one, whereas this one here, it's doing the same thing up here, alright? It's just following the moves that are being generated rather than the moves that it should be following, essentially, to get to the next point where it's training. So in reality, it's packing data into the model, It's just compensating for compensating. Or see that? Do you see how fluidly it just moved from one side to the other? Post-training. How nice that fucking went. But yet what confuses me is when you get this, for example. Hold on a second. Testing mode. And sometimes it looks like it's actually hitting shit like it should be. Okay, do you see that? One was successful. Boy, that's an increase thus far. See all the failures, however? It's and is it moving in the right direction? How close is it getting to the target? At this particular speed, which is all inference is apparently rather fast, it's not letting me know when it gets close or how close it gets, essentially, and then there's a question as to how to freaking reference that. Look, there were successes. That's amazing, and it's presenting it with randomized data it hasn't seen before, so the training is doing something, but the success rate is so freaking limited at this particular point because it hasn't trained 2 million fucking goddamn times, and it's still getting hung up on those critical events, as you can see. So how many times do I have to train this before that success rate goes up? I mean, because look at this crap. I mean, it's making 100 steps each. That's how many I'm letting it. I'm allowing it to go 100 freaking times, essentially. You know, make 100 seconds worth of freaking, like, actions and mistakes. And, you know, sometimes it's getting pretty close. You see that last one? You know, it's sort of like stopped right here, right next to the target. I mean, it's getting kind of close. See, like that one, for example. Okay. I mean, for it to be counting a fire, too, it has to actually be pointing directly at the damn thing. And this optimal solution, which is still being calculated, you know, for a double check, actually has to match up with whatever the model's generating. So it is generating some precise data at this particular point. It just hasn't trained long enough. So there's that. See that? Like it's going back and forth. It's trying to find its way there. You know. But it gets stuck at points because these values end up being the same, you know? These values end up being the same. See? 7, 8, 7, 5, 9, 1, 7, 5, 8, 2, 8, 2, 8, 6. It's telling it not to move, basically. When it tells it that, those are critical events I try to train over, basically, you know, until one of these values goes down and the other goes up. And there's two ways of doing that. You can let it naturally reach that, and if it naturally reaches that, then all is well and good, you know. But it takes a lot longer to do that, and the question is should I be using those critical events that I'm using as critical training events? I mean, because like when it gets stuck like this, that's whenever I spark a critical event, because it's like it's not moving. So if it hits this particular point, this exact same point is going to do what it's doing here, and it needs to not be doing that, you know? So, yeah, why not fit it until essentially it moves one way or another, you know? Just like whenever it, like, actually hits, like, one of the targets, so on and so forth. You know, it's a question as to, there's a couple different questions I have about whether or not I should be using an additional hidden layer, for example. That's a good question, I think, you know. I'm considering just backing up the present training set that I have and just trying that and see whether or not that makes a change in performance. You know, for all I know, it very well might. That's the thing. And see, that success rate's pitiful at this particular point, you know. I haven't even seen any out of ranges yet. Anyway, so yeah, and I also have to add something essentially to allow me to configure that on run, which I actually have done previously, but yeah, fun stuff.